First off, no nominations for Wonder Woman. What do we make of that? About my reaction, too.
It's Sleepless with Steve and the Movie Book Club with your host, Steve Pulaski.
You know, it's funny. I will say this, though. I don't know if you two have any interest, but every year for like the last 4 years, and we'll get right into this. I just want to make this point. For years, the best live action short film and the best animated short film were like the who cares categories, because they would always frustrate people like me that were really into movies, because even, like I said, 5-6 years ago, you had no way of seeing them. There was like, they would be nominated and everything. You'd hear the names, but you'd be like, well, where can I watch these things? You know, like, where are they showing them? Well, now what they do for live action, not for documentary shorts, those are still kind of independently owned, but for live action short films and for animated short films, those two categories, what Shorts HD, the company, does now is in February, this year it's February 21st, they release them on like Amazon Instant Video, iTunes for like something around like $5.99 or so to rent, and it winds up being it winds up being the set that you can watch. It's like 2.5 hours because it's all 5 short films.
Oh wow!
But there's some places like that, like in the Music Box in Chicago, that show full theatrical releases and stuff.
I was about to say AMC sometimes does it too.
They do. It's hard to find them though. It's hard to find some of these ones. I rent them off. I've been renting them off Amazon for the last about 3 years or so, and then I do big reviews of them all. So that's how you can see the short films, at least.
Well, it's going in my notebook. That's good to know.
Yes, it's February 21st this year. That's when they do come out.
Very cool.
The only thing is, though, is if there's usually, and I think there's not one this year, but if there's usually a Disney or Pixar animated short, that's not included in the short set. Disney wants to keep that, so it's always one short. It's always one short. But good to have both of you gentlemen with me tonight. Like I said, it is the 90th Academy Awards on March 4th, and they came out with the announcements today. I don't know if were either of you up at the great hour of 7 o'clock in the morning to watch these nominations live? Anybody?
No, I was not.
You guys had better things to do.
I had to be up at 8 for class, so I got up at 7:50.
I don't blame you. I remember one year, I think it was my freshman year, I had an 8 o'clock class too on Tuesday morning when they were announced. I remember having my headphones in with it in with my phone in my pocket, walking to class, listening to the nominations, like reacting as I'm walking too. It was an embarrassing thing. But we're gonna kind of keep it free form. I'm really interested to hear what you gentlemen want to talk about. Of course, we're gonna hit the big reactions to the big categories: Best Picture, Actor, Actress, Supporting Actor, Actress, and Directing. A couple notes though, just for the kind of overarching notes of this though, just for the just external factors of the Oscars this year. First off, no nominations for Wonder Woman. What do we make of that? About my reaction too. That's about my reaction.
People were like, "Why didn't she get Best Director?" And we've talked about
Patty
that before.
Jenkins.
Patty Jenkins. Why didn't Patty Jenkins get Best Director? Well, Greta Gerwig and Catherine Bigelow made 2 better movies that probably need a nomination more for a woman director, honestly.
Yeah, that's another thing. Detroit didn't get anything either.
Yeah.
I was surprised by that one. I thought that was pretty Oscar baity.
I'm not. I mean, you know what's funny is it's less. In my opinion, it's less Oscar bait than like something like Zero Dark 30, but it's also it's way better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it didn't get anything. Also, only one nomination for The Big Sick. Only one.
I was really
for The Big
disappointed
Sick.
in that.
And that's that's of course original screenplay. No other nominations for Big Sick. When we hit the specific categories, we'll say if they should have been nominated. I can now officially make this claim. It's a controversial claim, but I will make this claim for Best Animated Feature. Okay, we have The Boss Baby. We have and Ferdinand. 2 of the lesser reviewed animated films. There's no Lego Batman. I'm going to go on a limb here. Now I got confirmation, okay? Because they didn't nominate the Lego movie back in 2014. You remember that?
Yeah.
We had 2 Lego movies this year. Lego Batman movie, Lego Ninjago movie. The Academy Award has an extreme prejudice against block people. That's really what it comes down to.
You know, I've definitely heard you make that joke before,
I know.
Steve.
Well, now I got confirmation. Now it's confirmation time, you know? I had to. And then last but not least, and I know this fact hits a little bit sorely, I believe, for Joe a little bit more than me, but it's still a big thing. I was expecting it, but no love for Wind River either.
Yeah.
And I think that's got a lot to do with Harvey Weinstein.
Honestly, yeah, it's
That's
that.
got a lot
and also
to do.
just walking out of that movie, my friend was also mad that Blade Runner didn't get nominated for anything like big director or best picture. And both that movie and Wind River, I walked out. I'm like, as much as I love these movies, I don't think it's gonna get nominated for best picture or best director.
Yeah, Wind River, I would have liked to see get like a screenplay or something.
Yeah.
Taylor Sheridan.
I wanted to see Jeremy Renner, right?
Yeah, Jeremy Renner.
Yeah, I wanted to see him get nominated for something. I was really hoping for that because I thought he did really good in that movie.
Yeah, I hear you. Those are just the overarching thoughts that were swirling in my mind shortly after the Oscar nominations were announced by Andy Serkis and Tiffany Haddish. Andy Serkis, of course, from the new Planet of the Apes trilogy, on top of a boatload of other films. He was involved in the Lord of the Rings films, and then Tiffany Haddish, of course, from Girls Trip. So it was an interesting dynamic at play. It was a little bit better than it normally is. You know what I mean? Like, there was a big thing about Tiffany Haddish mispronouncing all the names, and I'm like, and everybody was saying like, oh, why do they have her on if she's mispronouncing names? I do it every week on Sleepless, and she's on a bigger stage. You know what I mean?
You try saying the director of Call Me by Your Name, I guess.
So I'm gonna throw it over to you guys, Kevin, Joe. You guys can take the reign. What's a category you really want to talk about first for starters? Dive into the nominations.
I'll pass this one off to you. What do you want?
Okay, well, the biggest thing I was happy about when I was looking at the nominations was my favorite movie last year got nominated, which was Logan for Best Adapted Screenplay.
Yes.
I was so happy to see that. I was like, thank God. I thought that movie honestly deserved it from the way, like, after just watching it, I was like, this is like one of the best screenplays I've seen for a comic book movie since The Dark Knight, and I really wanted to get nominated.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I even wrote down on my handy sheet over here that get with all the Oscar nominations and whatnot. I even wrote down. I said, writing in a comic book movie is hardly ever recognized.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not gonna say Logan. I'm not gonna sit here and say like Logan is an explicit comic book movie because it isn't. But it is indeed a film that is based on a comic book property. You know what I mean? Or is based on characters from a comic book. And it's interesting though that it's not recognized in any other category, but it gets recognition in writing. And honestly, I think if you were only going to give it one nomination, that's the nomination you give it. I think I absolutely agree with it. I thought it was a very great film. Even if you want to segue and you want to keep it with writing for adapted screenplay, this is a stacked category. There's a lot of them this year. But
there's a lot of movies on here. I'm like, ooh, I don't know who it can be given
you
to.
have Call Me by Your Name, you have The Disaster Artist, you have Logan, Molly's Game, and Mudbound, all for best adapted screenplay. We're not gonna go too explicit in who we think will win. I might, I want to give it a couple more weeks and stuff. You want to see which way the wind blows in a way, but honestly, right now I'm looking at it. It could be Molly's Game just because of Aaron Sorkin.
It's probably gonna be on Molly's Game.
I mean, he picked one up for The Social Network like 5 or 6 years ago. What was that?
At the beginning of the year, or at the beginning of the decade.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the decade. Call Me by Your Name though could also get it too. I'm not gonna put it past that one either because that is based off a very acclaimed novel as well. But I was happy to see Logan at least get that. At least get a little love on that level because I do think it is a very special movie. It's one that's going to be remembered for many years too. As just a great film, even for people that don't love that kind of love that kind of a movie. Kevin, your turn. What do you want to talk about?
I'm just gonna keep with the adapted screenplay thing. I was really big on Disaster Artist, specifically for the writing aspect of it. I'm so glad it got nominated because I think what they did with the materials that they were given, which was what was it, Greg Sestero's account of the making of, and then a bunch of other documentary footage and stuff. They took these different elements and adapted it into a story that's this really, really poignant meditation on artistic failure, and then and redemption out of artistic failure. And I thought, going into the movie, I was super skeptical. I thought it was just going to be kind of this Franco Rogan buddy comedy, with a funny impression, running through the whole thing.
I think a lot of people did.
I was really, really happy that they made it so much more, and I thought just the way that they turned the accounts of the making of The Room into this, story of artistic failure. I thought it was really, really well done, and I think a lot of that goes to the writing and how they used the accounts of the behind the scenes footage and stuff like that.
Very
So
well.
I'm
very
glad
well
it got
said.
adapted screenplay
Very well
nomination.
said. Very well said. You know what I want to bring up though? I will chime in with this, man. How about Baby Driver getting that love? How about Baby Driver getting that love for editing, and sound mixing? You know, how about that? That I was very happy to hear Baby Driver not only be called, but at least called more than once. I think it showcases some of the best editing of the year.
Well, yeah, I mean, that whole movie like is all about the sound. Honestly, it's the star of the show right there. Is the sound in Baby Driver.
Certainly wasn't the actors.
Like, this even goes back a little bit to like this morning, okay, with like Tiffany Haddish and Andy Serkis doing the announcements and stuff. The Academy right now, the Academy Awards, the Oscars, okay, in my opinion, and I think you saw this a lot last year, they have a real age gap issue in the regard that like the people that like the Academy Awards and that like follow them are usually not around our age group. You know what I mean?
yeah.
That's more of, if anything, it's the Golden Globes. You know, it's some of the fringe music awards. You know what I mean? But the Academy, I think, in the coming years is going to have a very, and this is, I think, a year that really is them trying to combat it. They're going to have a really hard time trying to, and I think they're making it harder than it should be. They're going to have a hard time trying to appeal to younger bases if they keep nominating their current films like Darkest Hour, you know, like Phantom Thread. And I'm not saying they should explicitly cater to younger audiences, but I think when you include movies like Lady Bird, like Get Out, like Baby Driver, Star Wars,
Logan is a big one.
you know, even Disaster Artist, I think you wind up appealing to a younger audience. And it's not like it's a way that you could see as egregious, because you can make very commendable arguments for all the films I just listed getting nominations. Sure. You know, when you go back to Baby Driver in the editing categories, when you go to Star Wars: The Last Jedi in visuals, you know, you can still have that kind of quality, but it doesn't need to be like the commonplace. Like I'll tell you right now, the Steven Spielberg film only got 2 nominations. That really surprised me.
People were like,
surprised
Tom
that.
Hanks got snubbed. I'm like, Tom Hanks is just Tom Hanks in that movie. He's great. It's not like a performance I was like, wow, Tom Hanks, you really knocked it out of the park. It's like, it's another Tom Hanks performance.
And Meryl Streep gets nominated too for Best Actress, making it her 21st nomination of her career, her 21st Oscar nomination. They got it. Here's the thing.
I think they nominate her every year, no matter what.
They do,
Even if she's not in anything.
Hell, she was nominated for Florence Foster Jenkins in Into the Woods. You know what I mean? The thing is that I like Meryl Streep. I'm already, Joe, I'm not high on The Post. I didn't love The Post. They got to stop giving Meryl Streep kudos for walking onto a film set. They really do. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. She's good in The Post. Did I think she need to replace? Here's the thing. Did I think that she's better than Jessica Chastain in Molly's Game? No. That's who should have gotten the 5th nomination in that category.
Oh, wait,
in my
did she
opinion.
not get nominated?
Jessica Chastain didn't get nominated.
Oh my God!
You're
absolutely right then.
For Best Actress, you've got Sally Hawkins for The Shape of Water. You got Frances McDormand for 3 Billboards, or as Tiffany Haddish says, 3 Billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri, which I love.
Missouri.
Margot Robbie for I, Tonya, Saoirse Ronan for Lady Bird, and Meryl Streep for The Post.
Wow.
Actress was always going to be a stacked category. I would argue that's the most stacked category of the 6 major categories. I would say that's the most bloated in that way in terms of like talent. But I think rounding it out with Meryl Streep was not to say it's not unexpected, but I think that Jessica Chastain definitely gave a better performance.
They got to remind you're watching the Oscars. And if Meryl Streep's not on the list, what do you know what you're watching?
You know,
Are you even watching an award show at this point?
It's like how you drop the FM89 tag at the top of every hour to remind the listeners what they're listening to, you know?
You have to cut back to Meryl Streep's reaction.
Yeah, that's
it's
right.
true. You know,
You know what else I'm really surprised about? It was a film you and I, Steve, we actually liked, unlike most people out there, was Murder on the Orient Express wasn't nominated for anything.
yeah, it didn't get anything, and I got a couple.
Like, I wasn't expecting director or best picture. I'm just like production design, costume design, hair, anything.
Yeah, I was surprised. That I think I was thinking about that on the ride over here, where I was like, you know what? There's 2 movies that were very visually dense that I thought were going to get more love, and that was Murder on the Orient Express, which didn't get any nominations, and War for the Planet of the Apes. You know, that really didn't get much either. You know, that got, I believe visual effects is the only thing that one got. Visual effects is the only nomination.
And to be fair, I mean, we all know that's in the bag.
Yeah,
Apes.
I mean, that's the thing. I think it might be. I'm not going to say anything I think guarantees in the bag, because you know what? Blade Runner's in there too.
Yeah.
So that's the one. First off, the visual effects category is great. I mean, you got Blade Runner 2049. You got Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, which I didn't love as a movie, but I'll defend it visually. Kong Skull Island, Star Wars The Last Jedi, War for the Planet of the Apes. That's a good category. That's a very good fit. Now, I think personally, I'm just going to go contradict myself. I think Blade Runner 2049 is a lock for cinematography.
Oh, yeah.
I think that Roger Deakins, that's a lock for cinematography.
What else is in there? What is
But I still wouldn't put it past it to win visual effects. You're looking for cinematography?
Yeah.
Cinematography, you've got...
here we go, yeah.
Blade Runner 2049, Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, Mudbound, and The Shape of Water.
Yeah, I would say so too. Yeah.
The only thing I can think of really is just Dunkirk. That could be like a second, like come in, like possibly take it. That's about it. But Blade Runner 2049, I think has it.
I think the other one. I think the other one in that race. I would say if Blade Runner 2049 were not to win, I would actually say it's probably The Shape of Water that would get it. And the reason I would say that is because Shape of Water's got 13 nominations. It's the most nominated film for the Oscars right now. It is actually. I mean, when you consider categories that The Shape of Water is ineligible for. Short film, documentary, live action, short film, animated. If you consider, like, you know, there's categories that like this that a film cannot get nominated for because it doesn't qualify. Shape of Water in 13 categories got almost everything that it qualified for.
La La Land did the 14 last year, wasn't it?
Same thing. Like, I mean, it qualifies for almost everything, or it's nominated for almost everything that it can be nominated for.
Sure.
But The Shape of Water, the reason I would say that that's a little bit of an edge over Dunkirk in terms of like what could upset Blade Runner 2049 if there was such one, is that The Shape of Water is definitely it's definitely a movie that captures old Hollywood. Joe and I are going to talk about it next hour. It's actually a movie that captures like old Hollywood aesthetic, and it's got a lot of those attributes that I think the Academy looks for in movies. You know what I mean?
Sure,
If you're just joining us right now, Sleepless with Steve on FM 89, me, Steve Pulaski, my co-host Joe Viso, and the great Kevin Deiber, talking the Oscars until 1 o'clock. We'll keep going though. We'll ride over the break and whatnot. We'll keep talking about this. What else do you guys want to address? Just kind of cold reactions to the Oscar nominations that were announced yesterday morning.
Well, I was just kind of thinking when I was reading this, I couldn't help but wonder what kind of year do we think the Academy wants to have? You know, I mean, it's a big year for saving face if you're working in Hollywood. So you never know, you know, depending on what kind of year they want, if they want to play it safe, if they want to, you know, throw a bone to whatever group, you know, it could definitely swing the balance for some of these picks. And I was just interested to hear your two thoughts on what you think, what kind of year the Academy wants to put out.
Joe, you can chime in on that.
You go first, actually.
Go first. You know, that's an interesting point because again, you're saying that Hollywood's kind of having like a crisis of saving face at the moment too. Of course, with all the sexual assault allegations that have been swirling too. That's what a lot of people believe is the reason why James Franco did not get nominated for Best Actor. Yeah. You know, I would argue, we'll talk about this probably later in the hour, but I would argue that Denzel Washington for Roman J. Israel Esquire. I'm probably the only one in the room that has seen that movie. I think that is absolutely deserved. I think that is absolutely deserved. But you do have this issue, and this is why I think that, like, you know, maybe we could segue into this and talk about this stacked category as well, but this is why I think Christopher Plummer is going to win for Best Supporting Actor for All the Money in the World.
Because
of the Spacey thing.
I think so. I do. I think that
just as a big, like, you know, stick it up, Kevin Spacey.
I think so. I really do. Now, here's the thing. Once the supporting actor nominations were announced, I said I think Woody Harrelson's got this. But now, and this is just because this is why I don't make my predictions the day of the announcements. You know what I mean? Because I really think about these things. I overthink these things. There's for Best Supporting Actor, you have Willem Dafoe for The Florida Project. You have Woody Harrelson and Sam Rockwell for 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. You have Richard Jenkins for The Shape of Water, and you have Christopher Plummer for All the Money in the World. The thing with Christopher Plummer is I think as a legacy Oscar, because this will be his second now after winning for Beginners several years ago. Yeah. He'll by winning this year, first off, the guy's 88. He stepped in during a time to replace Kevin Spacey under intense pressure, too, from the studio to keep all the money in the world release date for the December weekend, so it could qualify for the Oscars. Ridley Scott, I could even see Ridley Scott saying, "I'm getting my Oscar this year," or I'm making my Oscar movie this year. But anyway, you have Plummer stepping in. You have a good symbolic quality to that as well of him stepping in, and then you also have, on top of it, you also have a terrific performance. I don't know if you saw Kevin, All the Money in the World.
Haven't seen it. No.
I liked it a lot. It would have been nice too for best. I don't know if she'd be best actress or best supporting actress. That's a debatable one. Michelle Williams. I don't know if she'd be actress or supporting actress. I would argue actress. That's another one that probably could have replaced Meryl Streep, and I'd have been fine with it. But I do think Christopher Plummer, going back to the Hollywood trying to save face this year, I do think Christopher Plummer's got a chance to win for that. For like what he represents in that sense, in replacing Kevin Spacey at the 11th hour.
Do you guys think that that would kind of affect the Best Picture in any way? You think that they're coming at this from a certain angle, and they want to build the Academy up with a certain image by picking one of these certain movies? Because there's a lot of very unique, very good movies in the list, and it could go any way. You know what I mean? I mean, it could go in any direction, and I think each of the picks kind of implies something different.
I do too, and it's 9 nominations, so the votes are going to be split. So I mean, it's 9 nominations. These are very like distinct movies. My comment on Best Picture that I made earlier, and I was talking to North Central's Great Chronicle. I was talking to one of the writers over there when they asked me like kind of my raw opinions of the Oscars. I'll say right now, I do think, in my opinion, you have Darkest Hour, you have Best Picture films, and the reason I say that is because you have Darkest Hour, you have Phantom Thread, and you have The Post. I think are three pretty weak movies. I honestly do. I think out of all 9, I think Darkest Hour is the weakest. I think Phantom Thread's a close second in my opinion for being the weakest, and then The Post I think is not as great as people are saying. But it's evened out in my opinion by Get Out, Lady Bird, 3 Billboards, and Shape of Water. I think you have those 4 really good movies that kind of tilt the scale so that we don't have like a 2005 year where it's like 3 mediocre movies. Also 9 nominations.
Isn't it usually 8?
It's anywhere between 8 and 10.
I feel like every year it goes up by 1.
I think it's kind of ludicrous to have more than 5 or 6, in my opinion. I think it's kind of ludicrous. I think they should keep it 5 or 6.
Imagine if they kept the animated movie still in this category.
Yeah, I know. But here's the thing that kills me, though. It's like the Best Picture category, okay, they got 9 nominations this year. Would it have really killed them to make a 10th to put like Big Sick or I, Tonya in there?
Yeah, I know. Those were 2 I was really disappointed, because I'm fresh off the Big Sick I just watched a couple days ago.
You did? What'd you think of it?
I really liked it.
Liked it.
It got a lot of hype, and I thought it might have been a little overrated maybe, so I went into it kind of skeptical. But I really liked it. I think it's a really effective movie, and I think too. It's up for writing is the only thing it's up for.
Yep.
Yeah.
Original screenplay, and in terms of in writing in a film, I think it's the best written film of the ones they have listed.
Of the 5?
Yeah, I would say either that or 3 Billboards is the best like written elements in a film.
I would say, because I know some people probably disagree with you on the Big Sick just because of the fact that like Get Out's, and there are a lot of people like the nimbleness of Get Out and the commentary on that. The reason I would say though, I would not. I hesitate to say because they're very different movies, like what I think is the best written of all. But you know what? I will defend you with saying the Big Sick, that you could make an argument for Big Sick. Because you know what? I think the Big Sick, if you were going to write a screenplay, let's say you're going to write a screenplay, you're going to write a social commentary on race, which is obviously a very tough thing to do. You're going to write a coming-of-age story about a young woman. You're going to write kind of an old Hollywood tribute about, or I'll just call it the R-rated Lilo and Stitch with Shape of Water. And then you got 3 Billboards, which is kind of like a crime drama mixed with a black comedy, and then you got then you got the Big Sick, sort of a sweet comedy, a little bit sentimental drama with a relationship at its core. In that, I think out of the margin of error for like the Big Sick to not to be good is very high. It's not an easy film to write. That's why it's like with Emily V. Gordon, Kumail Nanjiani, it's based off how they met and everything. Like you could tell that this was a true story because like if this wasn't, you could see through the ruse in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So I would not doubt that I would not disagree with you for making the argument that The Big Sick you could justifiably be called the best written film of that lot.
And it is the funniest joke of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. You're talking about between Ray Romano and Kumail Nanjiani at lunch. I know what you're talking about. It's one of the best. It's one of the best line deliveries.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It really is.
I'm making myself hate not seeing this even more now.
There are so many good line deliveries this year. I was gonna say, like there was a great one by Tracy Letts in Lady Bird right after he finds out or right after the mother finds out about what the daughter's kind of conceiving and whatnot. There's a great line delivery by Tracy Letts in that film. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Just the way he says it, just the way he comes up.
Then we can't say on air, basically.
Then there's of course Tiffany Haddish in Girls Trip when she's talking about the place where you cannot get an infection, which is just a very good line. There's some great line deliveries this year. There's some very good stuff this year. You know what? We'll take a quick break. It is 12. It is great to have you with me right now. Good to have you back too, Kevin. Very nice to have you back.
Anytime.
I love it. We got to get you on more, especially now with the Oscars in lieu, just about 38 or so days away.
Hey, maybe we can do a much delayed, much anticipated Monster Trucks review.
I was gonna say get Abby on for that. Get your girlfriend on for that. We definitely.
It'll be a good one.
I would love to.
Cultural phenomenon.
Absolutely. Yeah, like I said, just turned a year old a couple weeks ago.
Classic, instant classic.
Joe, did you see that Monster Trucks?
I wanted to so bad because it looks so bad. But
we just made history on Sleepless with Steve. Never has a show about the Oscars even mentioned Monster Trucks before this. So we got a little history under our belts
Did that get
too.
snubbed too?
Big time. Biggest box office flop that didn't get even nominated for that.
Come on. That's the real killer here. Let's talk about first off. I was gonna go back just to end off on best actor in a supporting role. You know what? And I actually tweeted this out today. And I know Kevin, you're smart. You don't have Twitter. Joe, you do. We gotta start a new hashtag campaign over here on Sleepless with Steve. This is what I want to do. So going back to best supporting actor, we have Willem Dafoe. We have Woody Harrelson. Willem Dafoe for Florida Project. Woody Harrelson and Sam Rockwell both for 3 Billboards Outside of Missouri. Richard Jenkins, Shape of Water. Christopher Plummer, All the Money in the World. So I was lamenting earlier in the hour about how Meryl Streep gets nominated simply for walking onto a film set. Okay. Now, there's a glaring omission from Best Actor in a Supporting Role this year, and that is, of course, Michael Shannon from The Shape of Water. I want to start this new hashtag. It's called #TheNewMS. Let's make Michael Shannon, every year that he comes out with a film, we got to nominate him. Make Michael Shannon #TheNewMS. That's what we need to do right now.
He comes back as Zod in the DC movies. Make him get nominated for that too.
Yeah.
Michael Shannon is the Tom Brady of Hollywood. I'm telling you right now. This guy is terrific. I love you know how much I love Michael Shannon.
Oh yeah, I'm right there with you, man.
I was gonna say, you put a gun to my head. I say he's the best actor working today, and I don't make claims like that very often. I think he's a tremendous talent. He's invaluable. Even in his we saw 12 Strong this week, which Joe and I will talk about next hour. Even with no character in that movie,
underused,
no character, underused, he still makes moments count. I love him. So I just want to make that one statement. Anyway, though, let's switch over. Best actress in a supporting role, okay? Let's talk about this. I want to talk about this category. You have, for best actress, you have Mary J. Blige from Mudbound. I swear I'm going to see that next month. Allison Janney for I, Tonya. Leslie Manville for Phantom Thread. Laurie Metcalf for Lady Bird. And Octavia Spencer for Shape of Water. Who do you gentlemen think wins?
Allison Janney.
Think Allison Janney?
After seeing I, Tonya, before it was Laurie Metcalf.
Yeah, Laurie Metcalf.
I thought it was gonna be her, but after seeing I, Tonya, I was like, no, it's Allison Janney.
And it's got the Golden Globe backing too.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you.
And I think she should win. I think she should win.
Up on stage with her again.
I think she should win. Honestly, I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be remiss if Laurie Metcalf won. I really wouldn't. I think she does give a very solid performance too. Leslie Manville. I was just talking about how I think Phantom Thread's not that good of a film, and I do believe I don't think I'm very low on it compared to other critics. I like Leslie Manville a lot, and I think given what they're tasked to do in Phantom Thread, and I'm not going to review it today, but I will talk about it later in the coming weeks, is that like Daniel Day-Lewis, that he said that this is going to be his last film with Phantom Thread. Okay, I would argue, given the fact
Until they cut the check, right?
Yeah, no kidding, right? Given the way what they're tasked to do in the movie, I don't think Daniel Day-Lewis is as challenged in this movie in Phantom Thread, especially given what you've seen him before. I think he's good. I think he's really good. I don't think he's challenged that much. And as a result, I think Leslie Manville is just as good as him in the movie. I think that she gives a very well tailored performance, no pun intended, just because of the fact that of the role she's tasked to play and how daunting it can be. So I don't think she's going to win it, but I do think that there's a chance. Octavia Spencer's good in Shape of Water too. I have not seen Mary J. Blige in Mudbound.
You know, I'm surprised, or just surprised in general. None of the young actresses were nominated this year, and there was like a big boom about them. You had like the Girls in Florida Project, which everybody was like raving about.
Yeah.
And then even if you want to counter, I mean, I was not even surprised. I'm not even surprised she didn't get nominated. I wasn't even thinking she was. But even the little girl from Logan,
Daphne Keane.
Like there was a lot of young actresses this year. I thought like, oh, maybe somebody will get nominated.
Yeah, the young girl from Florida Project, which I have not seen. I'm still livid about not seeing it. Brooklyn Prince.
Yeah.
She didn't get nominated for anything. The kid from Wonder 2 as well didn't get nominated for anything. Jacob Tremblay, he didn't get nominated. But Wonder did get nominated for best makeup and hairstyling. I think it loses to Darkest Hour in that category. I really do, because I mean, if you look at, have you seen the clips of Have either of you seen the clips of Darkest Hour? Have you seen
Gary Oldman?
Yeah, have you seen what Gary Oldman looks like in that thing?
Yeah.
I mean, isn't it astonishing?
It is pretty amazing.
What a 3.5 hours in the makeup chair, and he becomes Winston Churchill pretty amazingly. I think he does win too for best actor. I really do. I think he wins. Who do you think? Who do you think would win for best actor? We have Timothée Chalamet for Call Me by Your Name, Daniel Day-Lewis for Phantom Thread, Daniel Kaluuya for Get Out, Gary Oldman Darkest Hour, Denzel Washington, Roman J. Israel.
If Roman J. Israel got a lot more like people seeing it, honestly, because you were the only one that saw it.
Yeah,
here,
right.
I think.
No kidding.
Or in anywhere.
That's how I feel.
Maybe this will be Denzel's year, but it's like, yeah. As much as I would love to see Daniel, I'm not even gonna try. You never mind.
Kaluuya. It's like Kamal Nanjiani. Just read it.
Like, and you're saying Daniel Day-Lewis wasn't challenged in this movie. I'm just going off of what you're saying for that movie. Yeah, I guess Gary Oldman will have it. But my friend was even saying this year, when it comes to Best Actor, it seems like all the nominees weren't even that great other than Gary Oldman and Daniel Day-Lewis.
Honestly, I will say first, like I said, I know Denzel Washington's terrific in Roman J. Israel, but also, when has Denzel Washington taken on a bad role? Denzel Washington's usually very selective with his movies. So it comes as really, even to the people I think that haven't seen Roman J. Israel, it should come as no surprise. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
He's
sure.
usually great in everything. Daniel Kaluuya, I think, gives a very reactive performance in Best Actor. I think he's really good too. Timothée Chalamet, having seen Call Me by Your Name, he's good too. He's got like 2 or 3 very good knockout moments in Call Me by Your Name, which is what I believe earns him his Best Actor nod.
I want to ask you something, since this was, and I saw you talking about this on Twitter. Even I was kind of heated about this, and a lot of people are. Going back to the Razzies right now with Mother.
Oh boy.
Were you shocked that it wasn't nominated for at least Achievement in Directing for Darren Aronofsky?
In regards to Mother, because if you haven't heard the news this weekend, they talk about how irrelevant the Oscars have become. There's no award, quote unquote, show that has become more irrelevant than the Golden Raspberry Awards. Number one, I pay less and less attention to it every year. I couldn't even tell you what the worst picture was last year for that thing. But anyway, they came out and they nominated both Jennifer Lawrence and Javier Bardem for worst performers in Mother. And
Wow.
and I'll say, and let me say this before I answer your question about me being surprised Mother didn't get anything. First off, I know of nobody, not even critics who disliked Mother, that thought Jennifer Lawrence or Javier Bardem gave even remotely one of the worst performances of the year.
God, no.
Even the people that hated Mother, I don't think would say Lawrence, or they hated it because Lawrence and Bardem weren't good. Number one. Number two, as far as it not getting anything, I'm not surprised it didn't. I think if it would have gotten anything, it would have maybe gotten sound. It would have gotten sound editing and mixing because there's a lot of jarring ambient noises in it. Kevin, did you see Mother?
I did not.
Oh
no.
my god.
Well, that was what, it's funny when Joe first came out. We talked about it the first week on his first show, and we talked about Mother the following week. So it was very. I get the
very,
real.
very jump from it to Mother. It was like, wow, okay.
We got to learn a lot about one another in those that 2 week time frame. But yeah, and again, I didn't think Mother was a perfect movie. I didn't think Mother was an amazing film, but it was definitely better than I think a lot of people gave it credit for. I think I think it was a movie that was impossible to market, and not like Proud Mary, in my opinion, which was I think cruelly mismarketed. I think Mother was a genuinely difficult movie to market.
I mean, I would say it got mismarketed because I thought that they were marketing it like it was going to be a horror film, and it wasn't.
Yeah, I mean there was horror elements in it, but it was definitely not a straightforward horror film.
But yeah, I was just wondering on that because of the Razzies. Because after seeing Jennifer Lawrence get nominated, I'm like, this is no.
I hear you. Yeah, I figure I'm not surprised it didn't get anything.
Another one real quick. This is Dom's favorite film from last year, Battle of the Sexes.
Nothing.
Got nothing.
It's got as many Oscar.
Right?
It's got as many. Battle of the Sexes has as many Oscar nominations as I have. Nothing. As we have collectively. But yeah, that's definitely disappointing. That's another thing too, where it's like every year, of course, you get movies that like you think might sneak in there and get Oscar nominations, or you think might be big favorites. I think a big part, and people might disagree with this, but I think a big part, or at least a factor in play for Oscar nominations, is at least a movie has to kind of sort of catch on in a way with audiences. And Battle of the Sexes went off like a wet firework and people seeing it. Nobody saw it. I mean, it was very surprising for the fact that it had Steve Carell and Emma Stone. Nobody saw it. It was a good film. It was a very good film. I thought it was well written, well directed, well acted, really. But it was another one of those movies too that just kind of slips out. And then especially when you have immense hype surrounding Get Out, Lady Bird, and Shape of Water, and Billboards. I think those once you get the performances out of those, it just kind of stomps on smaller stuff like that.
You know what movie I just realized in the animated category that didn't get nominated? Cars 3.
I put that on my list, my notes right here. I said Cars 3 ? Yeah, best animated feature film. Good lord. Could they just say they want to give it to Coco and be done with it? Like you got
the only two films I really see there that could win is The Breadwinner and Coco.
Yeah, I would argue Loving Vincent
and Loving Vincent. Yeah.
I would argue Loving Vincent, even though I haven't seen it.
When I saw Boss Baby, because it's the first one that was written down on the website I was looking on too, I'm like, this is joking, right? Like this got nominated, and then Ferdinand came up right after. I'm like, no.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, first off, this was not a banner year for animated films. A lot of which were decent to mediocre to average. I mean, you had Rock Dog in February was one of the animated films which nobody saw. You had My Little Pony, the movie, which never had a snowball's chance in hell of getting nominated.
I would have loved to see that get nominated.
I would honestly. Here's the thing for. Let me say this about the Boss Baby being nominated, okay? Because every year there's always that one movie that everybody hated or everybody is surprised it got nominated. The year before, last year it was Suicide Squad, which won. The previous year it was bad, or at least I think 2 years prior it was Bad Grandpa. Jackass, Bad Grandpa, which was awesome, but. The Boss Baby, here's the thing that I said about my review of The Boss Baby. I don't know if either of you saw it. I didn't hate it, but I didn't think it was amazing. You know what it reminded me of? It was, first off, it reminded me of a very cartoon. It reminded me of a cartoon, which is, animation kind of boils down to in a very, broad sense. But it's cartoony, which I don't think we get a lot. It reminded me a lot in spirit and in imagination of a Fairly Odd Parents episode. And that's not faint praise, in my opinion. It really isn't. I love the Fairly Odd Parents. I think it's an embodiment of animation in terms of what you can do with it. I didn't loathe the Boss Baby like a lot of people did. Do I think it's Oscar material? No. Do I think that Captain Underpants should have been nominated? Absolutely.
Yeah.
That should have been nominated instead of Boss Baby. That's what I think is one of the worst snubs this year is Captain Underpants.
You even saying at first you said this year animation was kind of mediocre to good. It wasn't really that big of a year for animation, and then you just say stuff like Captain Underpants, I was like, well, there's another one I probably should have got nominated in front of Boss Baby and Ferdinand.
But I would say outside of Captain Underpants, Coco and the Lego Batman movie, that's about there. Cars 3's average. You know what I mean? Cars 3's fine. Like
it's just Pixar. I was like, they might throw it in there, but they all got Coco in there too.
And Coco's gonna win it, and Coco should win it. That's the one that like if you're gonna bet like 5 figures on, I would take Coco. I would take the odds. The odds are in your favor on that one. Anything else, you gentlemen? We've got about 5-10 more minutes. Anything else you want to talk about? I'm very undernourished in documentary and foreign language film. The only foreign language film, and again, I'll go against the grain just like I am on Phantom Thread. Only foreign language film I did see this year was the critically acclaimed Swedish film The Square, and I did not like it one bit. The Square, honestly, I did not like that thing.
Square.
Yeah, The Square.
What's The Square about?
Don't get me started. That's a
I was
hard
about
one.
to correct. I'm like, you mean The Circle with Tom Hanks and Emma Watson?
No, this is the prequel. It's like a social satire, and it's in a very long one, a very like excessively arty one, a very meandering one,
like The Lobster.
Yeah, you know what? I would honestly take The Lobster over it. I mean, this thing won. The Square won the Palme d'Or at Cannes. It won at the Cannes Film Festival. So it's got that audience pull. It's very divisive in its reaction. I just think it's 2.5 hours of a lot of. If it's not being unsubtle in its metaphor, it's being vague in its metaphor. That's what I think. That's how I see it. I got to go back and try to catch up on some of these foreign language offerings though, because I know A Fantastic Woman from Chile is getting a good buzz. Loveless too, the film from Russia is getting a lot of good buzz. And then documentary feature, Steve James, love Steve James. He got nominated. It's the Hoop Dreams director. He got nominated for his film, which I love the title, Abacus Small Enough to Jail. And what's funny is it's about like a family-owned bank in Chinatown in New York, and the reason it was called Small Enough to Jail is because it's the opposite of Too Big to Fail. So that's why that's called what it is. I gotta watch that Abacus Small Enough to Jail. That I'm looking forward to seeing. So anything else you guys want to talk about? Last couple minutes. Any big thing? Should we talk predictions for the 2 biggest categories: Best Picture, Best Director?
Nominated for. I got one last one though before we go.
Go for it.
Were you shocked that Hugh Jackman didn't get nominated for Best Actor?
For what?
For Greatest Showman, not Logan.
Or Logan or Greatest Showman? I'm not. One of my critics' friends, Alonzo Duralde, he said it best for the rap. He said, I love all the people crying about The Greatest Showman not getting any nominations. and it got one. It got Best Song. Which is a great song. But no, I don't think it deserves. I don't think it particularly deserves.
Because I saw it this weekend, and like as soon as I walked out, I'm like, he's not getting that nomination.
I agree. Like I think with The Greatest Showman, I think because a lot of people are seeing it, and a lot of people have been asking me my opinion. When it came out on Christmas, it was like a solid week and a half before anybody asked me if it was good. You know what I mean? People just kind of stumbled to seeing it. As far as it goes, The Greatest Showman, I think it is a wonderful musical. I think it's got some of the best songs of the year. It's not about it felt like, and you saw it. I don't think we're going to talk about it today, but you did see it, Joe. It felt like it was originally conceived to be like a 2-hour, 15-minute biopic on P.T. Barnum.
Yeah.
And then it got butchered in editing. Yeah. That's what it felt like.
It really did feel like that because anytime like it went away from songs over and over again,
and it was just
because it was the most cliche.
Very thin. Like it didn't have a lot of stuff to chew on. It's a great spectacle. I love like the song between Zac Efron and Hugh Jackman, The Other Side.
That's a great song.
That's an amazing song. I actually just rented the soundtrack, or actually just got the soundtrack today from the library because it was finally available. I love the music, but the as a whole, I don't think it's a good film in the conventional sense.
One of my friends, she walked out and she was crying. She's like, "That was way better than La La Land." I almost wanted to like leave her at the theater. I was like, "You did not just say that to me."
I might make the argument that it's got more memorable music because I just rewatched La La Land a few days ago. La La Land, and I don't see this as a real knock as much as I think it is, but La La Land's music is not incredibly memorable outside of City of Stars and Audition. Outside of those two, Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone's song. I don't think it's particularly memorable. We'll end though with let's say predictions, or just like who do you think? Let's start with you, Kevin, for Best Director. Who should win? Who do you want to win for Best Director?
I would pick.
Who will win?
Who do you want to win?
Who you will win and who you want to win? That's what I should.
Man, this goes back to my question I launched earlier. But I think who will win? I'm seeing the Academy picking Greta Gerwig, who I think would win. I want Guillermo del Toro.
Okay, all right, that's fair. That's fair, Joe.
Who will win? Probably Guillermo del Toro.
Del Toro.
And then who would I like to see win? Jordan Peele, man.
Yeah,
I
can
would love to
them.
see Jordan Peele win.
For me, I'll say who will win. I think Del Toro. I really do. I think Guillermo del Toro will win for Shape of Water. I do. And because I think he got a lot of good buzz with the Golden Globes, and I think that he's coming in hot on the Oscars, which is always good. It's always a plus to come in, kind of, batting 100 at least when you're in that position. I think he will win. Who do I think should win? That's a little bit of a tough one. I think. Honestly, if I think who should win, I'll give it some credit because I think some people don't think I've given it credit. I'll say Christopher Nolan. This is the first time he's ever got nominated for Best Director.
Really?
Wait, he didn't get for Interstellar?
Did he get it for Interstellar? I gotta go back and look. I don't think that he did. I gotta double check on that one now. Now you got me curious. I think that this might be his first. I think that this is his first nomination because it did get nominated for cinematographer because he uses Hoyt Van Hoytema as the same cinematographer.
This great school internet. I'm trying to get to the page.
Yeah, no kidding, right? I mean, I did.
No, he wasn't nominated.
He wasn't. I didn't think he
Nope.
was. I didn't think he was.
Okay.
This is because he didn't get nominated for any of the Batman movies. I knew that.
Yeah.
I don't know what the beef is with Christopher Nolan.
knows?
It's just kind of like Steven Spielberg. It's like they don't want to nominate him every year. Best Picture. We got a ton of nominees. I'll read them off very quickly. We got Call Me by Your Name. We got Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, Get Words Outside Ebbing, Phantom Thread, The Post, The Shape of Water, Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Kevin, who wins, but who should win?
Who wins? Shape of Water. My favorite picture of the year was Three Billboards.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair. Joe?
I'm right there with him. Shape of Water is probably the one that's going to win, but the one I would love to see win, though, is Three Billboards.
Now, see, this is the funniest part because you know what? I've looked at like three other people's picks, and they're all different. Like you both said Shape of Water. I've heard Three Billboards. A couple critics say Three Billboards. I've heard another critic say say Dunkirk's got a real shot. I think right now in the moment, and this could change, in my opinion, what should win. See, I'm trying to think what should win. Three Billboards. I think Three Billboards should, in a lot of ways. What do I think will win? I think Get Out's got real edge.
Really?
I do.
Really?
I think Get Out's got real teeth.
If Get Out wins, I'm going to be screaming and running around my house.
Because it'll be something. I think right now, I think it boils down to these three. I think it boils down to Get Out, maybe Lady Bird, and Shape of Water, maybe Three Billboards in there, but I think those three, Get Out, Lady Bird, Shape of Water, for what those movies represent.
Lady Bird was going to be my third, honestly.
I think though, because every year you usually get about three. You usually get about like three movies that could win. Mm-hmm. Last year you had La La Land was like, the clear favorite until it wasn't. I would say last year you had La La Land, Moonlight, Manchester by the Sea. Those were your three. Those were your three last year that was like, it could win. Manchester by the Sea was a dark horse. But I think this year it's between Get Out, Lady Bird, and Shape of Water. I would say at this moment, I think Get Out wins.
That'll be awesome.
For the hype that I've heard of that, and the odd, this is the exciting thing about Best Picture this year. Not good if you're like me and you make your picks and take them way too seriously, but there's a very big parity with this. Nobody's really sure. Like last year, it was consensus it was going to be La La Land, and if it wasn't, it was people were picking Moonlight.
And plot twist.
Exactly.